This is habit number 5.
Okay, yeah, break it down.
So in other words, when we seek first to understand, if there's a negotiation or if there's any conversation to take place, I don't just jump in with my part of the conversation first.
I do that so much.
Seek first to understand. Well, you're very honest.
Yeah.
And you know, I wish more people were self-aware enough to be able to know that. But seeking first to understand means you give the other party an opportunity to express themselves first. Covey says that you give them psychological air. You let them breathe first. You let them get it off their chest first.
Yeah.
And then once they have expressed themselves, you repeat back what you've heard to their satisfaction.
Which means that you've then been listening and you understand what they're saying.
Beautiful.
Good.
Because once you know and once they know that he's heard what I've said and he's repeated it back to me to my satisfaction, this guy's been listening.
Yeah.
He truly understands where I'm coming from. And the beauty of communication like this is that it involves great listening skills. Now, many of us have been on speaking skills, presentation skills, how to put yourself across, but many of us do not go on a listening skills course or a listening skills event. There are 5 key levels of listening, going from worst to the best. The worst level of listening that we can often employ is when we just ignore the other party. You know what?
You haven't taken anything on board.
Yeah, they're talking, and we just ignore them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people out there now who know what ignoring, right?
They're not in their head.
Just ignore the other person. And that's not a great level of listening. The second worst level of listening is when you pretend to listen. Now, what's pretending to listen? So a person's talking to me. Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yeah, just one sec, mate. Just one sec. Yeah. Mom, oh, hi, Mom. Yeah, no, I'm just working with Denzel at the moment. Yeah, we're back in a bit. Yeah, so like I was saying, I'm going to talk about the second level of listening, which is pretending to listen. See if you can think of the third level while I'm just setting you up for this. The third level begins with P. Yes, Mom. Yeah. No, it's not quite lunchtime yet. Brilliant. Oh, it's my mom. You know, she's always doing
no
it.
attention.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, which conversation am I in? Am I in this conversation here with Denzel, or am I in the conversation with my mom?
100% that one.
No, I'm not in either conversation.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I'm
that's
not
true.
in either
That's
conversation.
true. Yeah.
There's a lovely lady by the name of Susan Scott. She wrote a book called Fierce Conversations and How to Have Them.
Okay, we'll put that on the book. For anyone who's writing these things down, we'll put that in the books. Also.
Great.
Yeah.
She has a number of rules around how to have really strong conversations and how to really get conversations that resolve things. And one of her rules is, if you're going to be in a conversation and you care about the relationship, be here and prepared to be nowhere else. Be present, be in this conversation. Cut out all distractions. So no pretending to listen, being on your mobile device or on your laptop or doodling or doing something. Be present here in this conversation, really listening, and be prepared to be nowhere else. So this is the art of being seeking first to understand.
That's a powerful
and that's just at a low level.
Yeah.
The third level of listening is where people selectively listen.
Okay.
So this is where you hear various things, usually the things that you want to hear, right? And some of the other parts of the conversation,
I know people probably said that about me.
Right, so here, this is where we listen attentively and we listen to the point where we try and hear everything. But if you're selectively listening, you only hear the things that you necessarily want to hear and you can play that back. But it's not a great level of listening because you may miss the detail, you may miss certain critical things which were said. And certain people, when they are saying critical things, they won't say them necessarily loudly.
Yeah.
So therefore, let's not just listen, but really listen so we don't operate with a selective listening paradigm.
Got it? Yeah.
One of the highest levels of listening that we can adopt, particularly in business or in general conversation, is that where we are attentively listening.
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. When you're attentively listening, how would you know? How do you know when someone is
Some form of
attentive?
acknowledgement.
Yeah, you hear
an
people.
agreement.
There you go. So you might hear somebody say, yeah, yeah. They may repeat back a little bit of what you say. They may rephrase some of the content that you just used. They may turn the content around and just use their own words, but you can see there's a general level of acceptance.
Yeah.
Now, when you are attentively listening to the other person, they will give you 4 gifts.
Okay.
They will give you the gift of being able to give them advice. Now tell me, is it important when you're in a business conversation or in a family conversation, or if the relationship is important to you, do you want to give the other person advice sometimes?
Yes.
But you cannot give them advice until you have first been attentively listening.
Right. Or you give the wrong advice.
Or you could give the wrong advice.
100%, yeah.
The second gift that you're allowed to give when you've been attentively listening is to give probing questions. You can ask probing questions.
Like, tell me more. What does that mean?
Well, a probing question is, well, Denzel, you came to my office today and traffic was terrible. But which route did you take?
Okay.
And would you have taken a different route had you known that the conditions were a little difficult in that particular area? Now I'm asking you probing questions,
Yeah.
right? But if I don't first attentively listen, probing questions seem like an inquisition.
Yeah.
So why did you do that? And why aren't you on time?
Yeah.
And why did this happen? And why did that happen? And why aren't you doing this? It sounds like an inquisition. But when
Right.
you've come from a position where you're attentively listening,
You're allowed to do
you're
that.
allowed to do it.
You
You notice the
yeah.
difference?
Yeah.
Does anybody remember a Harry Enfield character? You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You know how annoying that character was?
Yeah.
But imagine that when you don't attentively listen, it's almost as if you're saying, you don't want to do that, you want to do this.
That's
So
it.
you want to avoid that where possible. So first gift is you get the gift of being able to advise,
Yeah.
to ask probing questions. The third gift you are able to do is to interpret. The interpretation means that I try to see things from your perspective.
Right.
Oh, so this is what happened when you're on your journey. I can understand that. It's happened to me on many occasions. So if this is happening, maybe we could do this or that in the future. So you're allowed to interpret the circumstances.
Powerful.
Very, very powerful. And finally, the last gift,
The 5th gift.
the fourth gift.
Oh, the fourth,
So
sorry.
advising, probing, interpreting. The fourth gift is that of evaluating.
Okay.
Now, what does it mean to evaluate? To evaluate means to make a judgment.
Right.
Now, really, if I'm really your friend, if I'm truly in business with you for us to both succeed, sometimes I'm going to want to make some judgments. Denzel, you really don't want to do that. Denzel, you should do that. But who am I to make a judgment about you unless I have first been really attentively listening? You with me? So this is what highly effective people do, particularly in business, particularly when the relationship is really valuable to them. They attentively listen.
And I'm hearing whys all over the world. If my husband could only do this.
Oh yeah, the
We can all do the habits, man. I just wanted to have habit
only.
number 5 and we're all good.
This one's for the fellas.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Because I know the girls are saying that for
Yeah.
sure. But here we go. Don't mean to be sexist, but
Yeah.
sometimes a lot of those levels of listenings break down. And occasionally the conversation goes quiet. When the conversation has emotion wrapped around it, and it becomes emotional and not a lot of words are being said, you have to adopt a different level of listening. This 5th level of listening is called empathic listening.
Never heard of that. What's that
Empathic
mean?
listening is where you almost listen with your eyes for feeling. Now it sounds crazy to say that, but you're now in a position where it's not about the words, it's about the feeling that's in the room, being able to acknowledge that. There's an old American Indian saying that never let me judge a man until I have first walked a mile in his
Shoes.
moccasins,
Right.
in his shoes.
Yeah.
In other words, let me see what the situation is like from their perspective.
Oh, okay. So
Let me put
right.
myself in their shoes.
Empathize,
Let me
right.
empathize with where they are. Not sympathize, but empathize. Let me put myself in their perspective to really understand where they're coming from.
Good.
and maybe I'll catch it. Maybe I'll understand a lot more. We could go so much deeper with this one, but I'm just going to press the pause button on it right now.
Yeah.
Seek first to understand,
Got it.
then to be understood.
Yeah.
This is the root, the tree roots. This is the pathway, like the tree trunk. And this is going to bring us to the fruit. The fruit is where we can synergize.
Synergize. Okay.
Synergize, yeah. And to synergize means where you are putting your ideas on the table, I'm putting my ideas on the table, and our collective ideas is more than anything that you could have bought as an individual or I could have bought as an individual on my own. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
This is where we're talking to each other, we're seeking first to understand, and we're coming up with not only solutions, but we're also coming up with solutions on top of solutions. This is where 1 and 1 don't equal 2, 1 and 1 equals 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9,
Incredible
10.
multiples.
Yeah, because
Right.
now we're really open to communication, open to suggestion, open to paradigms. We're looking for what Covey
This is
describes
the exciting time. This is the exciting one.
This is